something, I always say there's something here for everyone, and I want to be clear on this as people are listening to the podcast. These are really done for the ladies, and I don't mean that in a bad way. And you're thinking ladies, no, but I truly think that this podcast, and people listen to it and they say, oh, it must be aimed at the guys, you know, between the ages of 23 and 35. It's like, actually, no. This is really, the inspiration is to help every single woman out there who already is fairly car savvy to be even more car savvy. So one, she doesn't get ripped off at the garage, and two, she can sit down with her husband and educate him about what's going on with the car, because ultimately she's driving it and she's thinking about it, and he's just thinking, well, you know, it's always done this noise. Yeah. You know, no, like me, it's the car, oh, the battery's starting to go. Yeah, we'll see how far we can drive it, as opposed to maybe you better give Glenn a call, right? Yeah. I did give you a call. I'm still driving it, and knowing that there's imminent failure of my battery, I've back it in now, like you know, of course in the
you have the manual. You could bump start that if you needed to.
Yeah. Unfortunately, mine's not manual.
No, exactly.
I wish I had a manual, and I wanted a manual, but it didn't come in the yellow. So, wow. But in the future, I will have a manual, because I can always find 4 guys. You know, guys, just push.
Yeah.
Here's a tenner each.
Yeah.
So help me get out of here. But anyway, no, it's great to be back. And as I've been saying to folks, we've been podcasting over the summer, but we had a little backlog. So if you've been listening, you're going, you're back. You never left, and that's true. We never left.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a lack of content to put out, did we? We had plenty to use.
And there's always lots to talk about. It's a great time of year, because people are coming back from holidays. They're starting to get into their vehicles, and we got tons to talk about. And the old favorites, you know, go get your oil change done. Yeah. My 18-month adventure, you know, and need a new battery again. It's like, really? It's like, how is this possible? Somebody get involved in the technology for standard automobile batteries. Stop working on these electric cars. Just fix the battery.
What we need to get involved in is getting like one of these big like sails out into the atmosphere that can reflect the sunlight, and keep the temperature down, and then the batteries will survive.
That's all I want to do.
Let's make an artificial ice age.
Well, and I'm also thinking, you know, guys over at Jeep, come on, people. You know where the battery sits. You know that engine area is hotter than the dickens. Yeah. So do a little bit more work on the insulation, people. Come on, like that should be the intern's job, is to sort out how you can put a little cooling feature in there so my battery's going to last more than 18 months. Yeah. And someone might say, well, you get a better battery, by the way. Like, are you kidding? I've had all batteries. I've gone from the cheapest battery to the expensive battery to the middle battery. Colin had a suggestion about some battery that's green. He said he hears those really good things from them.
Amaron.
That's it.
Yeah. We put one on one of his vans the other day, and he complained about the price.
I thought they were really affordable.
I actually had to put to him, yeah, we didn't have one of those usual ones in stock that we make out of a couple of bits of lead that we've got lying around. And somebody throws up bile into the middle of them to make them work. No, we had to put an Amaron one. So, but they are pretty good, and they're OE for a couple of cars here, a couple of Japanese cars here as well. So
but anyway, you know, my thing is, I don't think it matters. You know, there's always the hope.
I've got you a Bosch one sat on my bench. As soon as you messaged me, I was like, right, let me grab this battery.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be dropping in before too long to get that done, like this week. So.
Sounds good to me.
It's like, oh man, but
as long as you make it in.
Well, I can always get I have booster cables in my car, and I do know how to use the booster cables, and that's why I backed it in today, because I never back in. I backed it in case I need to get a boost.
Well, the van, I've parked the van, reversed it in space 69. So if my battery's dead, I can bump start that, because it's a manual.
There you go.
We'll sort it out.
But this is actually an interesting one, because both of my vehicles have booster cables. My wife knows how to use booster cables. I know how to use, but you know how many people do not know how to, you could call them jump start leads, I don't know, whatever. But how many people don't know how to use those things? And I find that rather frightening. A, the cars don't have them, and B, people don't necessarily, so one, people don't know how to use them. Two, people don't have any idea where their battery is, because they're not always in the engine compartment. They could be under the seat, they could be in the back.
Invariably they are now.
Yeah. And so A, you don't know where your battery is, and B, you don't know what to do if the charge dies on it, which will happen eventually. And it always happens at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I find that kind of interesting.
There's a couple of reasons for it. One of them is that, as you sort of alluded to with your, come on Jeep, stop putting batteries in the engine bay. Well, you know, a lot of the modern ones are inside, like the Grand Cherokee is under the passenger seat.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Which is great, especially when you have the passenger seat, you have electric seats, and your battery dies and you can't move the seat to get under there, which is a fantastic...
But does it have a little quick release so it flops up the seat or anything? No.
So
if you didn't see that because you're not on YouTube,
in the audio realm.
Yeah, you just heard silence. That's when he gave me. Of course, that would be so simple, but that
like on the Touaregs and the Q7s, there's just 2 bolts at the front and the seat will fold back.
See, beautiful.
Now they're quite, and to be fair, most cars that have inboard batteries will have connections under the bonnet where typically you would look for a battery which will allow you to put a booster cable or that. But one of the other reasons for the batteries not being in the engine bay, or at least accessible very easily, is because most vehicles now have battery control systems and intelligent batteries.
Right.
And if you put booster cables on them, you'll damage them, run a high risk of damaging them. So you'll get the battery some power in it, but you'll spike it, and then the control unit will be damaged, or there'll be a problem with the intelligent battery monitoring system, which you will then think, oh, so this battery dying has now cost me 4,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
So there are some unfortunate logic, let's say, behind where they put batteries these days. But it's no good. We had a customer sat in there yesterday at POWWRWORKS. He sat down for an hour.
Okay.
We were only changing his headlight bulbs. Now, we'd been really unlucky. We've talked about this before. One fails, change them both,
right? You got it.
Because the other one's going to be... This guy had no choice. He got in his car and neither of them were working.
How's that possible?
He never drives the vehicle at night.
Okay, so we never noticed.
So then the other night he had to drive, turned his lights on and was like...
Can't see anything.
That's it, these are xenon.
Even
Gas
worse.
discharge, so it's like $225 a bulb.
Yikes.
Bumper's got to come off, headlights out, and it's like, and the reason for that, and I said to the guy, and he sort of totally, he understood, and he sat and watched us do the work, and it was cool. But we don't charge for changing bulbs. It doesn't matter what the car is. We just charge for the bulb. That's something that I picked up when I was in the dealer.
That's cool.
And
it's good to know.
Some headlights you can change the bulb in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Some headlights you're taking the bumper off. Now this was a Touareg, so it was like not the end of the world. Knew my way around it, and it was nice and easy. But it's not great, is it? But the reason for that, the reason you can't necessarily change a battery when you drive anymore, and you can't change headlight bulbs when you drive anymore. These bulbs have thousands of volts going through them. There's big warning signs on the back of them. You only need one person that, let's have it right, is stupid enough to ignore those signs and put their arm somewhere they can't see and have the ignition on while they're changing a bulb. To get electrocuted, and they will sue the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will pay damages, especially, and this is just the case, just a fact, especially in America. The reason most cars now you have to press the clutch pedal to start them if they're manual, or press, is because a child got in a car that was in gear and managed to start it. Well, I'm sorry. Fair enough, put the fail-safe in there. But it's only because somebody got hurt and sued about it. It wasn't necessarily a fact that somebody thought about, you know what? So this is just a proactive thing where somebody's thought, well, we can't have people frying themselves on xenon gas discharge headlight current, so we'll
make it tough.
They're difficult to get to, let's say. And one of the good things about it, like on the Touareg, I can speak from experience, is the bumpers go back together without any problem. It's not like the plastics are going to break. It's decent quality, relatively straightforward.
They know you're going to have to take it off to do stuff.
But there are cars that it's almost as though they think, did you never think this was going to break? What are you doing?
They think that you're going to get rid of the car before you have to get anything serviced.
Well, this is the other thing, in fairness, the Touareg was a 2014 and it never had headlight bulbs changed. And
it's pretty good.
We knew that because the customer never changed them, and you'd remember paying 450 dirhams for a pair of headlight bulbs. But also it had the QC sticker still on from the factory over one of the bolts, which you needed to remove, so it's never been changed before.
Okay, awesome.
So 8 years isn't bad for a headlight bulb.
I'd go for that. I'm very happy with that. I alluded to before we kicked off the podcast that people actually are listening and taking advice. I was sitting down, and so I'm in Canada, and one of our faithful listeners is dialed in, and Steve Witter, give a big shout out to Steve. He is a lawyer. Always nice to have lawyers listening. Yes. Steve's a good friend. He's been there for me, Steve. Over the years, I got to say, thank you very much, Steve Witter. But he's listening and he's going, "You guys saved me."
Nice.
And I'm going to try and get the story right. So he was having.
Yeah, especially when it's a lawyer story.
Yeah. I'm going to get it close, but he'll don't worry. He'll let us know if we got it right or wrong, because
by a writ.
Yeah, pretty much. He said, "Look, I was having some transmission issues with the car." And I said, "Oh." And he said, "You guys, listening to Glenn actually saved me a whole bunch of misery." And so I'm going, "Oh, transmission issues." So what happened was, I guess he was having transmission sticking, or some aspect of his transmission wasn't working. And he was going to his neighborhood garage. And the neighborhood garage, the advice was, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to drain everything out. We're going to flush your transmission and X, Y, Z." And he's going, "Whoa, hold on. Are you sure?" And he kind of went, "This is not sounding like what Glenn has prescribed, and it's a little bit of an older car." And so he said to the guys, "Okay, yeah, don't do it. I'm gonna actually take the car to the dealer." And he took the car back to the dealer, and they said, "You know what? Let's see if we don't reprogram the electronics first. And maybe there's been an update or whatever." And they did that, and he said at this moment, he's not having any problems. So they topped up the levels, but they didn't change the filters, or maybe they did, but they didn't do the flush. They didn't do all this stuff that could loosen things out. Basically, all they did was update the software. Everything's going good.
Oil change on transmission is frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to a company here called Dexol, who just do automatic transmissions. They won't do a single other thing in their garage. There's a couple of other places as well, but Dexol are the ones that I think they're an American company originally. Been here for decades. Very, very good at what they do. Their top end price bracket, don't get me wrong, but they specialise, and you can pretty much guarantee if it goes there, it's diagnosed, fixed, and that's what they told you need to pay is what you'll pay, and then it's done. They have, from time to time, we will buy transmission oils from them. We will buy transmission components from them that the dealer don't have in stock, because the dealers tend to change the transmission. They don't tend to repair because of the labour costs. So they'll have most of the parts that we need, so we'll buy from there. And every time I go in, I always think, we should have the same sign. They've got a sign up, it's huge, it's bigger than their branded sign above the door, at the entrance to the workshop, that says, "We will not be responsible for any issues caused after transmission oil changes."
There we go.
Because if it's gone too far, you are going to create a problem by changing the oil at the wrong time. And it's not, I just don't understand on the first time of seeing a vehicle why you would ever think, let's change the oil on the transmission without at least going through the motions and figuring out, hang on a minute, what's the condition like here? Most transmission faults can be diagnosed, if they're mechanical, by looking at a sample of the oil. And if it's very, very bad and full of carbon deposits, black, or even metallic deposits, it's just not worth the risk of changing the oil and flushing stuff out and potentially blocking up oil galleries by mobilising some of these things. And good shout by the dealer to do a software update. It was probably something that they see on a daily basis. They're obviously never going to say that. But it would have probably been the case, and that's great news that it's fixed. And what that does mean now is if it's running okay, it might be worth having that conversation with the same dealer and saying, well, okay, guys, I'm happy with the performance, as were you, to have given me the car back. Can I do a transmission service and get sort of back to ground zero, so to speak, and then we'll keep on top of it from there, because maybe it's been a little bit neglected from the start. Which, again, there's nobody responsible for that other than the dealer. The dealer are so negligent in communicating effectively the need for a transmission oil service, apart from just telling somebody it needs it and giving them the price. Because to any normal, sane person, that is just sales power. You're just trying to get another $400 out of me. Well, explain the reason for it, explain the need for it, give a sample of the oil, explain, you know, these things don't take long to do.
Yeah.
So no, fair play to them for doing that. That's good work, and I would probably say try and get it back onto some sort of even keel by at least doing some form of servicing for the transmission.
And I guess at this point, talk to the dealer. He's really happy at this point with what's going on. So I said, oh, that's great. And he says, well, you know, give me the shout out and keep listening.
Yeah, it's good news. Yeah, well done.
I hadn't, speaking of transmissions, I got another great little story. So I did talk about the fact that we did an automobile rental this year in Canada with Turo.com, giving them a shout out. It's the Airbnb of car rentals.
So it's got to be better than the last time you came back from the summer rental where you had was it the hybrid that froze you out?
Yeah, the hybrid that froze us out in the Florida Keys.
That's right, yeah.
On the weekend in a place where there's little to no cell service and
more alligators than bars on your phone.
And boa constrictors.
Nice.
And the best part of this whole thing was the auto rental company, name brand, international, they basically...
Right. So we're setting the standards low.
Yeah.
So this time was a better experience.
So we go with this, and Turo.com, check it out if you're traveling around, and it's actually a really interesting service. And basically, I rented a car off someone who had a car. They put it up on, the basic formula is insurance and all that stuff is done through the app, done through the company called Turo, and you pay according to the deductible you can stomach. And if you need roadside assistance, it all works through the Turo thing. And essentially the owner of the car gets 70% of whatever they put it up for, and Turo takes 30. And so, I mean, I only got that because the guy told me.
Yeah.
And away you go. And if you've got issues, you know, mechanical stuff, then talk to the person who's got it. And you get kilometers, whatever. There's a variety of cars. Anyway, so we did this. Got a late model, 2009. First thing that I didn't realize, 2009 year models in Canada. It was a Hyundai Sonata. No, not Sonata. It's
Santa Fe?
No, the little 4x4. I drove the thing for a month. You think I remember what it was? Anyway, it'll come to me. It's not a Santa Fe. The one that's smaller than that.
Tucson.
That's it. Yeah. So 2009 Tucson, very popular vehicle, automatic transmission. It was big. It was big. We had to do an IKEA run. We had to do a run to Canadian Tire. If you're not familiar with Canadian Tire, think Ace Hardware. It's kind of the same but different. Anyway, went and got barbecues and stuff, all fit in. 2009 year model, coincidentally, must be the last year that you could put a car out without ABS brakes.
I'm into it.
So,
I like it.
So it had airbags, it had all the bells and whistles. It did not have ABS brakes, which you might be saying, someone's listening right now going, ABS brakes. Okay, is there really an issue with that? Well, the whole ABS system kind of fits into a power brake system. And if you're used to driving, even my Jeeps have ABS brakes. And so, you put your foot on the pedal and those brakes, they're not ABSing, but if you slam on them, then you're going to hit that. Yeah. This vehicle did not have ABS, which meant when you the first time I get out, and he said, just beware, it doesn't have ABS brakes. Oh yeah, no problem. You get out and you're driving, you put your foot on the brake, and it's like, whoa.
You're just locked up.
No, not even just locked up. It's like, where are the brakes? Yeah. It's like, hold on a second, and you're applying more and more pressure to get it to stop, and you forget how used you get when you're in traffic and things, and you got to put on your brakes, and how quickly we stop now. Without that power assist on your brakes and ultimately tied into ABS.
Yeah, I can't think of whether the...
I think 2010 they must have made it.
2009 one had the hydraulic all-in-one servo and ABS unit. I think they did, which meant that it's probably running like an old school vacuum, which is better anyway, vacuum servo, which is obviously not... Yeah. It's either leaking a little bit or not working very well, because for the pedal to not be effective like that, I know 2009 is 12 years ago, but
I think it must have been right on the line. Anyway, it was interesting. It was a beautiful car. Don't get me wrong, but that was one of the things. Well, there was another thing happened right near the end, and clearly the owner knew this was going to happen because I'm driving the car, and I did mention this to him at the end. When we gave back, I said, "Hey, dude, just by the way, last couple of days I've had this happen a couple times." And it sorted itself out, but you need to get your car serviced. And he was like, oh, no, it's not a big issue. It's like, yeah, okay, what you think it is and what it is are two very different things. So here's what would happen. You'd start the car, or you'd take it out of gear, put it into park, and you would hear the sound like your starter motor trying to engage with the engine, that, but you're not starting the car. So he's going, oh, it's just a starter motor. I'm going, yeah, but I wasn't starting the car. And I'm trying, and I'm thinking, you know, hey, I got no issues because it's your car.
Yeah.
But it is not the starter motor, my friend.
When your starter motor goes,
yeah,
you're in the same boat as you are with a dead battery.
Yeah, I go, no, this is not your starter motor. This, and I'm thinking, because, you know, it happened a couple times, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, where we are with this, and it was near the end, thankfully. But I found some fixes with the way I started the car or whatever that would do this, because it wasn't the starter motor. What it was is automatic transmission. It's the plate in that transmission that connects in. It was clearly slipping, but only when you would put it into park. It wasn't locking in, or taking it out of park and putting it in something, it would not lock in. So you'd get that grinding sound.
Oh God.
But it sounded like a starter motor kind of, you know, but it's clearly the clutch plate in the automatic transmission. That's clearly what it was, because.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Because when
you've got a slipping clutch pack in an automatic transmission that is also noisy.
Yeah.
I mean.
And it wouldn't do it all the time. It would start. So I thought it must rotate somehow.
The other thing that could be, you know, that could just be, we've kind of just talked about it, that could just be a low oil level, and it's running out of oil in the torque converter or the oil pump. I
did check all those things, and they were in the middle. Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, it's because I thought, you know, if it's just.
He needs to get that looked at.
Well, that's what I said to him. I said, dude, you need to get it looked at. And the problem was, as I said, it sounds like a starter. But it's not.
But the engine's already running, and then it's.
And it could do it when you were, so in gear, there's never a problem. But if you were then potentially, and sometimes it was only after it'd been driven a long time, so it was obviously getting warm, and that was having, and you know, if you did 700 kilometers and then go and fire it into park, it might do this, turn off the engine and start it, it's okay.
It sounds like the parking pole, actually. Yeah. The parking pole that just locks it. So when you put it in park, you're actually engaging effectively a pin into a hole. Okay. It's not always that, it depends on the gearbox. Ah. But sometimes when the edge of them breaks, or sometimes even the hole that it goes into breaks, they don't engage properly. So
it was like quite the grinding sound, like a starter.
Yeah, so actually, you know, when you start your car up today, if you just go forward and get it doing 1 kilometre an hour,
yeah,
put your shift into park, and you'll go as it comes to a stop, because it doesn't quite engage.
Okay.
So it may be that.
So maybe not so sinister.
But still, because what's going to happen there is you're going to put it in park and it's going to be in neutral, because park is neutral just with a mechanical lock.
Right.
So if the pole breaks off completely, which it's going
to,
then you've got a situation where it's just going to roll down a hill.
Right.
So the time that you sort of become aware of that, obviously when you're driving, you don't put it in park while you're rolling.
No.
But you'll get the odd time where we'll be sometimes listening for a noise or something on a car, so we'll have the car up in the air and we'll be listening underneath, and there'll be somebody inside making sure that the traction control system switched off and that the vehicle's up to the speed that we're looking for. But obviously at the point of stopping, we'll say, okay, stop. Instead of pressing the brake, the car isn't moving. So then they just, okay, stop, put it into park and turn it off, or even turn it off, and then, you know, and what happens is you'll get it trying to engage because the gearbox is still moving.
Right.
So it sounds like, from what you're saying there, it was the parking pole, which is an absolute disaster.
I got to send the guy an email.
Yeah, because if that fails, you're just going to have the car rolling down the hill, because who puts handbrakes on now?
Well, no one.
Yeah,
but I started to, because I wasn't sure what this was. Yeah. And I mean, this is, well, I mean, I'll send him a note, but
the other thing is where the bits go. That noise is something catching, and it's going to be breaking off in pieces in there.
Well, then I was looking to see if there was any, you know, seepage, if anything, and there wasn't nothing. And, you know, we did our part. We let him know, and I said, anyway, he had to get it serviced anyway, so hopefully.
They pick up on it when they service it.
Well, I'm hoping, and if it starts happening enough for him, because it did it for a couple times, then it stopped. And I thought, okay, well, you know, if it was my car, it's one of those things. That's kind of the thing about
this app. Sounds really good, actually.
Yeah,
they trialed it in the UK. I think it was Heathrow Airport, one of the car parks. So you could, if you flew out of the UK and you were parking your car at Heathrow or whichever airport it was, it might have been one of the small like Gatwick or Stansted or something. But if you were parking in the car park, let's say car park 2, that was like the trial for it. So then you could say, right, I'm leaving on the 31st of August and I'm back on the 10th of September. Yeah. So you had the option that between those dates, anyone that was arriving could hire your car as long as it was brought back. Yeah. And I think the theory of it's quite good. Yeah. My only, I don't exactly know what happened with the trial in the UK. Right. I don't know. But also, who's responsible for the standard of the vehicle? Well, that's it. It's sort of like an Airbnb. So they've set up, okay, this is what the expectation is for cleanliness. And so the owner, his responsibility to get that thing vacuumed, to make sure it's sanitized. Yeah, these things are fair enough. Because obviously, I think anyone with any kind of expectation of being able to take anybody's hard-earned money is going to keep their car clean, just like an Airbnb. With the Airbnb thing, I've always been thinking, well, what happens if there's an electrical fire or a gas leak or something? Like, who's responsible for that? And if you hired this guy's car and there's a tyre blowout, now obviously the chances are here's a freak accident. I can give you another example. So my son actually had rented, so both my son and I have used Turo this year, and we both went for the super economical route. So you have a lot of choice. I was tempted to go for the Mercedes-Benz because I just thought it would be nice to have a Mercedes. And it wasn't really that expensive to have this, nice Mercedes, but it was double the price of what. You made the right decision. My wife said, "Why are we going to go for that?" And I'm thinking, but it would look nice. Or the Tesla, because you could rent some Teslas. And I said, but it would look nice. She's going, really? Why are we going to do that? And then I was thinking, well, what about the Volkswagen? And it wasn't even a Passat, it was just the Golf, but it was a sedan, the Jetta. And she said, yeah, but this one's more affordable. I was like, okay, so we'll do that. I really wanted to go for the Jetta, but we didn't. My son ended up getting I would call it a beater that he rented, and he actually had a tire blowout. He got a flat. So he called up the guy, and the guy said, well, dude, it's a flat, change it, but that's going to really fall under your responsibility, that tire. And I'm going to my son, I said, well, if you've got to put a new tire on the car, just get the most affordable tire, because just go and paint the rim black. Yeah, do whatever you got to do. But I said, any owner with self-respect is going to realize you got to put on 2 tires, and that's not your job. But he went, did the job, and he went to a tire place, and he said, I need a new tire. And the guys looked at it and said, oh, well, first he wanted to get the tire patched. He thought to patch it. And the guy looked at it and said, I can't patch that tire. It's got bubbles in it. And so then he called back, he had them call the owner and say, dude, this isn't, it's got a flap, but this is your car's got a defective tire. And then the owner said, yeah, I'll cover it. And obviously he wanted to cover it because he's going to have to put on 2 tires anyway. So it sort of worked out without a whole bunch of issues. And then if you really then have issues, you get to rate the car and you say, look, you just write your story down, right? No one's going to rent a car from that person again. Yeah, and I do get that. It's just with what we were talking about, with pressing the clutch pedal to start a car and not being able to change headlight bulbs. Just the whose responsibility is a serious accident caused by mechanical neglect. Right, that opens it all up. What happens there? Yeah, because I would imagine to cover themselves as an app. As a service provider, that the owners of the car are signing to say, no, it's an issue with the car, it's on me. Well, and it was when I got the car, the guy was very keen. Here's my service records, here's when it was last serviced, it's getting close to the oil change, but how far are you going to be driving? It won't be in that time. And, please take pictures all around the car so you've got records of what it looked like when you got the handover. Like, he was very keen on it. I'm going, really, you want me to take a video around the car? Like, why do I want to do that? And as soon as someone says take a video around the car, you got to do it, because if they're mentioning it, that means they're going to be looking with a fine-tooth comb. And so you want the record. You need to do those things because not even just to cover yourself, it's the fact that it just, if you don't want that, or especially as the owner of the car, you wouldn't want that somebody bringing your car back and you thinking, oh, there's a dent there, but I don't remember it. Right. And then it's awkward as to say to the person, well, look, you did that, dude. Because that's not a nice conversation to have. Some people probably relish it, and that's how it is. But for me personally, I would hate to have to say, did you do that? Yeah. Because it's like, we saved a whole bunch of money doing it this way, and I'd absolutely do it again. Rent a car this way. It was great.
It really was great. And it
is
was,
there an Airbnb tier that has car? You know, if you have Airbnb, do you think there's a like? Do they do like the whole package?
I don't know. I've never seen that.
Because you would think that this is, I don't know how established Turo is, but you would think that, I mean, this is the kind of thing that, you know, if it was any kind of
That would be a great idea.
fintech, Google would buy it. So like you'd think Airbnb would be like, let's buy this and attach it, because
Or
that
Travelocity or something.
yeah, because you'd have the same.
Because it works just like a car booking thing. Put in your dates, you get to see all the cars, all the write-ups, and the beauty is you also get to see all the comments from people, and you as the owner might cancel, which is a really, I thought it was really interesting, because you can see then in the comments, it comes up from the Turo app. Oh yeah, this person canceled 4 hours before the rental was booked.
Yeah.
So anyone that did that, I'm not even looking at these cars, because the last thing I want to be doing is flying in, I land and I find out, oh, I don't have a car rental anymore.
Yeah.
So that was, so I read, you know, you'd go through all the comments, which actually I didn't realize is actually a really good thing to do if you're doing Airbnb as well, because you get rated, and all of the people we rented from commented on all the comments that had been made about us as renters.
Right,
and I went, wow, it's a lot of pressure to make sure that you maintain a good quality rating, because someone could decline to rent you because of the ratings that you've got.
Nice. I like both ideas.
Yeah. So it was good. So I would recommend that. And we had like as I said, we had a good summer with that. So it was fun, and really just got us thinking about cars. And the things that you can, I think the other side of this car rental app is the variety of cars you can rent. So, whereas if you go with Hertz, you get a certain kind of car and you get a new car. If you go with Thrifty or whatever, again, they're attached to different, very specific types. Whereas sometimes maybe you want to rent a Jetta or a Passat, or maybe you want to rent a BMW or whatever. Well, where do you go and do that at a reasonable rate? And I loved the idea of not having brand new cars. It sounds kind of weird, but you become very anonymous when you're driving a late model vehicle.
Yeah, you haven't got the whole rental sticker in the back, and it's just not white, and it's I understand that.
There was a weird rattle though. I gotta say, and I'm not quite sure where this rattle. It bugged me the whole time. I don't have a clue where it was coming from. It had a sunroof and it had a little visor on the roof, so it might have been from that. I did notice that there was a little Bluetooth thing sticking up on the dash, so maybe when they ran the wire, but at a certain speed you'd get this little rattling sound, which sounded a little bit like a piece of molding was just rubbing on something. But it didn't annoy me enough that I did anything about it. I just went, it's 2009.
I think the parking pole on the transmissions is a major concern.
And the guy who I rented from, we'll get him sorted, but I gotta say, it was cool. And I guess I could have called him right away and just said, dude.
Yeah, well, it's one to remember. Hopefully it stays as an active service. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it's been around for a long time, apparently. It was called something else, and then they rebranded, and it's been going for a while. And if you're in, I don't know so much Europe, maybe, North America for sure, there's mega options. In fact, the guy I rented from, I'm pretty sure he does it, this is part of his income, is he owns 3 or 4 cars. He doesn't drive them all the time.
Yeah.
So you can rent them out daily, right?
You know, the thing is that you have to think about everything that the world's gone through, supply chain. For I think I sent you the article about Toyota closing a plant, and because there's just no access to these chips and processors, and it's like the pandemic happened. Nobody wanted to rent a car because nobody was traveling. Obviously, the majority of rental businesses, either business travel or tourism, which both died. Going around a little bit, but they're still not great. So they sold their fleets to get some capital back, which pushed prices down because they flooded the market. And then people started traveling again. The fleets were so small, and prices went up because demand exceeded the volumes. So now renting a car is so expensive.
Exactly.
There's people selling cars that they bought from a dealer a year ago with 25, 30,000 kilometres on for 10, 15, 20% more than they bought it new.
I know someone who's capitalising on that.
You can't get the new car anymore. I remember it happening a few years ago when the C8 Corvette came out, because a friend of mine who worked for Al Gandhi had one, and they offered him more than he'd paid for it to put it back in the showroom because they needed them. And it's happening with F-150s.
Yeah, I got a friend who's in Canada, and he drives an F-150 for 6 months, sells it back to the dealer.
Yeah.
He makes money because the dealer's taking them to the US.
Yeah.
And he makes money.
In the US, an F-150 is over 20% more than it was a year ago, brand new.
He's making money every time.
And it's ridiculous.
It is. I want in on this. I kept saying to him, I want in.
I know. It's one of those typical money-to-money things where you've got to have the money to get into it. But absolutely crazy to think that. Yeah, I think. Well, so Amy's in the UK with the girls at the minute, and it was £650 for 2 weeks rental.
No, that's what we were playing Canadian money.
You know?
Yeah.
£650. So
takes your breath away.
Over almost 3,500 dirhams.
Yeah, Turo.com.
For 2 weeks.
Turo.com, check it out. There's got to be a UK rental stuff in there.
Absolutely frightening to think that 2 years ago it was £300.
Yeah, and you might be able to get an extra deal on something. It's like, oh, we're going to give you 25% off because it's X, Y, Z. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, geez.
And you can only borrow so many cars from people. I mean, I don't want to borrow my family's cars because they need them.
No, exactly. I mean, you've got, Amy's, my parents as well, still work.
Yeah.
So the vehicles that they have, they need them. It's not like they've just got a car lying around that we could use. You need the fact that you're sponging off them for the room anyway, so you don't want to be sponging off them for the car.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's tough.
Yeah, it's a real strange time. Toyota, VW Group, all reducing output expectations, closing factories, shortening shifts.
And it's a knock-on effect because then all those people are seeing their income decrease, and everyone.
70,000 people. Yeah. In Wolfsburg.
Can you imagine?
At one plant. That's an economy just around a car plant. Yeah. And all of a sudden, their income drops. So
and there was no planning for that.
Yeah. All the bars, sporting events, live music, theatre, cinema, shopping malls, online spending.
Yeah. Gone.
Yeah.
It's cut in half. People are tightening up their belts going, I don't know if I'm going to get my job back.
Yeah. And it's like, all because there's a shortage of microprocessors and circuit board chips for cars. I mean, it's what do you do?
Like, really? How's this
when cars have got 70 control units on them, which is pretty standard.
It's pretty standard 70 control units.
Somebody's got to produce the parts, and that's unfortunately the way it is.
Yeah.
We got an EOS in.
Oh man, they don't even make those anymore.
No, we got one in that was work needed doing on it, and we're just running through the diagnostic report. And the customer, we normally send them anything specific for what they've asked for and anything we found that may be an issue. And so we send them a diagnostic report from the electronic diagnostic tool. But the customer had actually asked for the full readout because they'd had one previously from the previous place.
So they want to compare.
That had then done a repair, and they wanted to make sure. So I ran through it. So on the VW Group stuff, there's a gateway, which is a central processor which communicates to all the modules, so you can just pull it out of there straight away. Yeah. But if you do it that way, you can't send the details. So I had to run a scan that ran through every single control unit one by one. It took 2 minutes. Now, part of that is because it reads every single option that it could have according to the vehicle. Mm-hmm. But the amount of control units that it could have chosen from was 112.
Wow.
112 control units.
112 control units.
It had like 60-something results on the end. But
that's incredible.
That car's a 2008.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's 13 years old. And what are they doing now?
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Right? Control unit goes, and if multiple control units fail that things are feeding into, you're done for.
Yeah. There's a fantastic account on Facebook called BBC Archive, and they just put obviously from the archives, and there was it was either Tomorrow's World or an equivalent, which was in the UK, which was a bit of an institution where they had Tomorrow's tech. Sometimes it was some science fiction, but a lot of the time it was very, very good at foreshadowing.
Okay.
And one of the things was one of the first computers. Now, my grandma worked for the post office in the UK as a programmer, and they would make the ribbons that went into the computers for doing the calculations.
Wow, okay.
And most of them was it was purely accounting
Yeah.
and number crunching.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, this computer, this is in the 60s, 65 I think this film was, this computer can do 1,000 processes per second.
Right.
Now in the 60s, that's like mad.
Yeah.
And they're showing you how it works and stuff. The thing is huge. It's like the size of this table.
Yeah.
And there's a lady sat there, typical 60s, oppressed professional lady. She's got heels on.
Nice dress, her hair,
she's
beautiful.
like, and then there's a guy sat there with his beer belly with a fag on. But he's obviously her boss. It's like, how does that work out? She's programming this, putting the ribbon in, and she's showing us how the computer works. And you think, that could not even start a modern car.
No.
And something the size of your thumbnail will do that 1,000,000 times over now.
Yeah. And, we're talking teraflops.
But we can't get them.
Yeah. No.
We can't get the bits. So what good is that? What good is that?
Yeah. No.
And it's, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, you cannot stop production. There's too many people dependent on it. You can't say to all these guys, all right, well, we're going to have a year off. We're going to build some, and technology changes so quick. Yeah. By the time they've caught up, there might be something else.
Yeah.
So, it's a real serious...
Yeah. Like, what's the plan B? How can we recycle stuff? How can we...
can't sell cars as it is.
Yeah. So now suddenly you've got this happening.
Now there's a shortage of them, so they're going to charge more. And then it's like, oh.
Why do I want that car to start with now? And it all it does is start to create the ride sharing options and these, the green cars and the blue cars and whatever cars that we can go and get with an app and just have it for, an hour or two. It's making that more viable because suddenly I'm going, well, I don't want to spend, another 25% on a vehicle and I'm going to have to insure it. Oh, the insurance has gone up and when I'm, I really don't need a car for...
Yeah, but you're going to have a situation where you're going to get new cars that need service campaigns and manufacturer recalls that can't be repaired.
Yeah.
Because
what
do you do? Do you stockpile parts for repairs?
No one does that.
You can't even meet the production line demand.
We're in trouble. I mean, we're really in the auto industry is in a huge heap of trouble because it's its own worst enemy because it was doing the right thing. It's let's get parts delivered on demand or in what do we call that? In the moment, or it's got a name. I don't know what the name is.
Stupid.
Yeah. And now they can't even build cars, let alone get you the part when you need it. And it's just making people look at alternatives because they're being forced to. And it's unfortunate because I love cars. And who doesn't love you get into the car and the sound and the smell and the feel and stuff. It was funny because my brother and sister-in-law, both, they have a lovely Tesla. And then the Mercedes came out with just their latest electric version car. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, not only does it have that 17-inch screen in the center, the whole dash is a screen for everybody. And you're looking at it and I'm just thinking, that's Mercedes. And you know that it's going to have the clunk of the doors and you get in and you're going to have that supple.
The last 4 or 5 years, Mercedes have nailed their interiors. They're so smart.
And I'm thinking, so now I'm going to have an electric car that's a Mercedes? I'll take it. I mean, is it going to cost me a little bit more than the Tesla? Maybe. Am I going to get all the Mercedes safety and
panel gaps will be aligned and everything will work and it'll make.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
Which Tesla will get there if they carry on, which they probably won't. They'll be making moon buggies or whatever. But Mercedes have been doing it for 120 years.
And that's the thing. And I went on record years ago saying that Teslas are great and hey, they do look good and they're phenomenal. But when the legacy auto companies start playing with it, they've already got the build quality. Yeah. They've already got that reputation, and there's a whole bunch of value to that. And if I'm a Mercedes lover or a BMW lover or a Lexus lover, and suddenly I can get the vehicle I really love that is viable electric, am I going to go towards Tesla or am I going to go with the legacy automobile? Well, I think everyone's going to go legacy.
Well,
let's say they're going to go the Tesla.
For a start, the big guys can take a loss. Yeah. They can take a loss on it.
Right.
You've got to look at what Volkswagen did with the Phaeton and the Veyron at the same time in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Said, well, we want a car you can do 200 miles an hour and still read a newspaper in the back and not realise how fast you're going. So they made the Phaeton, made a loss on it. They sold them at a loss, but they did it as an engineering exercise. They wanted to do a car that had 1,000 horsepower. They and could do the fastest production car speed. They made the Veyron, sold them at a loss, just because they can, and there's benefit long term to them for that. They've just sold Bugatti again to Rimac.
Exactly.
I mean, God knows what they're going to come out with. Them Rimac cars are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
One of them nearly killed Richard Hammond when he did the hill climb with it, because he went off the edge of the hill. And then they've got the Bugatti name behind it.
Yeah. Everyone wants to drive a Bugatti. I mean, if you can, you want to drive a Bugatti. Come on.
The Mustang Mach-E, the Volkswagen ID3, ID4, the Audi e-tron, that they've stopped taking orders for because they can't physically make them quick enough. These are just some examples. I mean, I keep seeing the Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It upsets me because it's a Chevrolet, but I like the look of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a General Motors product.
Yeah.
And I go home and have a shower and wash myself after thinking that I like it, because I feel dirty for saying that. But it just looks.
Yeah.
And you know that, say what you want about an American car as opposed to a European car, but they've been doing it for a long time and they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And General Motors can afford to sell 10,000 of those at a loss to get them out there, to get people talking about Chevrolets making electric cars, so that when they do an electric Impala or a Malibu, people will say, yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the Model S is...
Well, look, Ford F-150 is an electric version. They can't make enough of them, and they're backlogged. The Bronco and some of these other vehicles that they're looking at, E-versions, they're done. They're not taking orders anymore. They can't do it. Although I got to say, really quickly, Ford Bronco, and I've been seeing a lot of. I saw one interesting review of them where a guy was talking about a Wrangler versus the Bronco. And it was, he's going on and on and on. And he was doing the review based on the fact that he just bought a Wrangler and his company bought a Bronco.
Right.
So he got to drive the Bronco. And I'm listening. About 90 seconds into it, he does disclose that the price of the Bronco was double his Wrangler. And I'm going, well, there you go. Now we're talking apples and oranges. And I'm just going, can't go near the Bronco. I can't afford that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks quirky and kind of cool, but it's double the price. Well, you can't do it.
You know what? You've got a problem there. It's same as a Samsung or an Apple phone. I could go and get a Huawei or even one of those Oppo.
Yeah.
And I've almost exactly the same everything on it. Almost exactly identical spec for a quarter of the price of the Samsung, but it's a Samsung.
That's it.
So people pay more for it, and same with the Apple stuff. Yeah. I mean, Amy's always had iPhones. I've never seen any of the features on, and I can't use Apple stuff. I just can't, and I've never been exposed to it. But I've never seen one that's been better than, or what I would consider better than the Samsung stuff.
Here we go. Here's the ultimate test. Talking with DigiGeekster Andrew Thomas, and he's going, "Oh, the new iPhone's got swipe," and I'm going, "What?" He goes, "Well, you can swipe." I'm going, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Look, like you can swipe," and I'm going, "I've been doing that with my Android phone for 5-7 years. I don't think I've ever not been able to do that."
It's ridiculous how different the worlds are, right?
And then he goes, "Oh, look at the screen, how clear it is." I'm going, OLED screen? I've had that on my cheapest phone that's Android forever. I can't remember when I didn't have that. He's going, "Well, it's now on Apple." I'm like, "Well, you guys are catching up."
This is the difference. But people will pay crazy money because it is an Apple or it's a Samsung, whereas you can get the same thing in a different package. But I think you've got the motor manufacturers, that Mercedes will be Mercedes, and they will charge a premium, whether it costs them the same as it costs another manufacturer to make the same car. They will charge double, which because they can. But at the same time, the other side of that coin is you've got companies like Volkswagen that will make them and sell them at a loss to get them out there because they can.
Exactly. You know what? We're gonna wrap this podcast for now, but we're gonna foreshadow, because when we come back, our next podcast, we're gonna talk all VW, because you guys are getting so many VWs in there. I want to talk things. I want to talk Touaregs. I want to talk just VW, and so we're gonna do that on the next one.
Sounds good.
Yeah, there we go.